Welcome to the Elk Talk Podcast with Randy Newberg and Corey Jacobsen. Presented by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
The goal is, what little you and I know about elk hunting, we share with people.
I've got an elk bugle, it's like 120 yards away. What do I do? First off, the thought would never cross my mind when an elk's bugle 120 yards away to call anybody on a cell phone.
All elk?
All the time? Only elk?
Only elk.
Well, it's us having conversations, so we usually go down some rabbit holes, but
If you hunt with Corey Jacobsen, you will find the landscape is full of rabbit holes. We're just going to make this up as we go.
and you look at it like, oh, that's a target-rich environment. But if you're trying to single one out, a solo target there is much easier to go into than a big group.
We record everything, so there's no BSing, no lying, no faking it with us.
Did we hit the record button?
I forgot to hit the record button. If you want to know something about elk hunting, this probably isn't the podcast to listen to. Should we give them a list of all the other podcasts where they might learn something? Well, folks, I am Randy Newberg, and you are?
I'm Corey Jacobsen, and we're here with
David Brinker.
David Brinker, the
David
man.
Brinker. The David Brinker.
Can we
Yeah.
turn up my headphones a little bit?
You want it louder?
Just a little bit.
He's
Okay.
two.
Huh.
Here we go.
that?
That's
Well,
much better.
this is the Elk Talk Podcast from Big Sky, Montana, Total Archery Challenge, brought to you by,
The Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
what would we do without them?
We would be sitting here looking at a bunch of non-accessible country to our north.
Yeah.
With no elk in it.
With no elk.
With no elk in
That's
it.
right. So, with this, folks, David Brinker is one of these crazy guys who, whenever he decides he wants to frustrate himself, he shoots with the traditional bow. If you want to go to one of my TV episodes out on my Amazon channel or my YouTube channel, David's in full display of how to use a...
Still my most embarrassing public moment.
Is it, David? I'm
Yeah,
sorry
unless
about
Corey
that.
asked me a hard question on the podcast.
So we've told David that while we do the introductions of who makes this podcast possible, that he's got about 5 minutes to think about his 5 biggest elk hunting mistakes. And what was your response when we told you that?
I'll save that.
But we want to make sure that you know that Gerber Gear, the maker of fine knives and tools, makes this podcast possible. I would suggest anybody who's an elk hunter go out and get one of the Gerber Vitals and one of the Gerber Big Game Vitals. They have their replaceable blades, and they have the replacement mechanism dialed in. There's no more of this where you're going to cut your finger off kind of thing. So, also brought to you by the
The maker of the Sitka Mountain Shorts.
yeah.
Yep.
So, David, you used to work at
I
Sitka.
did.
How did he score a pair of mountain
I asked him that
shorts?
yesterday. I was there for 11 years. I don't have any mountain shorts.
Well, you know, I just tell everybody they're on the website, and if you can't find them there, call Corey Pearsall in customer service, ask him where the shorts are. I sacrificed a pair of mountain pants, and
I might have you make me a pair of those for a Roosevelt hunt.
I'm not hunting in shorts in that country.
That would be a good idea.
Sitka Gear is a sponsor of the podcast, and as David mentioned, he was there in a marketing capacity for 11 years,
Yep.
and in the last 5 or 6 weeks has moved on to new ventures, which maybe we can touch on here in a
Sure.
bit. But
Yeah.
Sitka Gear makes incredible clothing, makes us more successful and more comfortable.
Way more comfortable. I have such a low success rate. I don't know if I do get a spike in my success rate, there's really not, I don't know what to attribute it to. But I can tell you that Sitka Gear is as comfortable as anything.
Yep.
You like that new shirt you're wearing there?
I do. I even got. Are you making jokes of the fact that the last time Corey and I did a podcast, I wore it inside out and didn't even know?
I looked at it and I'm looking and I thought, that's so bizarre. Sitka's putting tags, like the printed tags
noticed
on the
that.
outside of the
You posted
shirt.
something on your Instagram.
I know.
I saw it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they didn't print those on the outside.
Well, we did a whole podcast, and then we go to get lunch, and we're in the restaurant,
Yeah.
and I'm like, where'd my pockets go? And that morning, because I had to get up at like 4 a.m. to drive to Missoula, I'm like, man, Sitka they put the buttons on like on a woman's shirt.
And that keyed me off to how does he know which side of a shirt the buttons are on a women's shirt?
Because at my house, I used to do the laundry.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Hold on. We probably need to do an episode about
Let's
your
talk about
philosophy on getting out of doing yard work and all of that, but you do laundry.
I used to be the laundry guy. When my wife was working, we divided chores. I did all the poopy diapers because if my son puked, I puke. So I told her I can clean up the worst diaper in the world. I'll do that. You do the puking. I'll do the laundry. You do this list of things. So, I mean, I could go to the laundromat and I could read Field and Stream magazine or Bugle magazine or whatever. And
That's a good system.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So that was back before they had, smartphones and internet and all that stuff.
Well, I was worried you were going to wear it inside out today, so I'm happy to.
Well, I now I know to check and make sure the Sitka logo.
Do you have a
right
dilly
here.
bar in your pocket?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't. I laid it over here.
That's so funny. I was just going to ask him if he had spilled a dilly bar and stained his shirt, and then he could turn it inside out.
There you go, folks. Right there. I brought 72 dilly bars up here this morning, and they were gone like fart in a skillet.
I just ate the last one, and it was really, really good.
David got the last one. It was almost getting soft.
That was a cherry, I think.
It was.
He told me he was saving it for a child.
Well,
And you showed up and he just reached in there, pulled out and handed it to you. So.
Well, that was the excuse I used for all the other adults who came up here. I'm like, you don't want to take a kid's last dilly bar, do you?
I get it. Well, I'm glad David got it.
I don't know how we got from Sitka to dilly bars, but we got there. So the other one we got is GoHunt.com, who you're going to hear so much about that, especially when we start talking about researching and draw odds and everything else. But we really are encouraging people right now because for a short window of time, they have this 30-day free trial. Yep. We don't know how long. They won't tell us how long.
And that's, the end of the month.
Might be.
They didn't say which month, but they said the end of the month.
But go to gohunt.com/Elk Talk and get your 30-day free trial, and they get the insider, the whole full-blown version.
Yep. This isn't like a sneak peek at one or two areas of it. You get access to everything that a full membership gets you. So
the whole works. So, and then we will have the how many time world champion elk caller talk about the next partner we have called Rocky Mountain
David,
Hunting Calls.
How many times have you won the world championship?
10, I think. What do you have, 9?
So anyhow, you don't need to give a number, but we have a world champion.
So someone asked yesterday, and they asked how many times I'd won, and I just said I've been fortunate a couple times. And Sam Soholt was there, and he said he might be a 10-time world champion, but I'm 11-time Axis deer calling champion, and he can do it with his voice.
And also the only one in the world that does it, possibly.
He possibly is, but he does it really well. So,
really?
Yes. But the Elk Talk podcast is sponsored by the Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls.
Yep.
And great calls. Obviously, we use them. As many of the listeners know by now, my father owns the company. Yep. But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
I use the calls that perform the best, and fortunately it aligns with that, so we can still get together at Thanksgiving.
Yeah. You don't want to pose on that, so he better keep making good calls.
And
right?
I told him that. I'm gonna be checking out other calls to make sure that I'm using the best. And so far they've been the ones that I can rely on them. I'm comfortable with them. They make any sound that I need to. They're high quality and cool. That's what we're looking for.
And David, if you want to buy some, you go to RockyMountainHuntingCalls.com and use this promo code I wrote down right here, Elk Talk.
Okay.
And they'll give you 15% off.
All right. I was kind of hoping Corey would bring me some this year, but
he won't. he won't. Last podcast, we were doing a podcast at my house the other night, and he's got them in this little secret package, this protector kit.
Yeah.
I tried to open it, and he's like, grabs them. And now he tells me he's got them in a safe up here in his room or something.
You're just lucky I didn't have a Gerber Vital knife in my hand.
You would have stabbed me, probably.
He gave me a couple last year that were pretty sweet. So,
So 15% off RockyMountainHuntingCalls.com.
Yep.
Promo code
Elk Talk. That's a good promo code.
That's a great promo code. Easy to remember.
It fits well with the podcast.
It does.
Yeah. And then I don't know how we always end up talking about OnX last, because maybe we want people to make sure they get the 20% discount, and so we use that one as the last
a big discount
presenter. But OnX, which has revolutionized the way I apply for tags, the way that I hunt, especially as a public land hunter who loves hunting these boundary areas. David's hunted boundaries with me.
Back to my most embarrassing moment.
But I think all of us have hunted a lot of boundaries, and if it wasn't for OnX, it'd be like you wouldn't.
Yep.
You'd just go where the masses are.
And beyond even hunting, it's so handy. We were just driving. We were on vacation last week up in Glacier, and my wife said something to the effect of, where's the road here? Or do we end up there? And I said, well, let me check and see. And just pulled it out and showed her on the OnX app. It's right here. Here's where we are. And so, there's so many applications for GPS, for land ownership, for features, for trails, for roads. I mean, anything that you ever thought you could do on a GPS and way more, now you can have on your mobile device. And
I don't know how people survived before it.
I know. It's one of those things where I think of, how did I hunt before I had this? And we're doing an e-scouting series with them on our YouTube channel. And so far we've released the intro video, edges and canopy disruptions, burns, sanctuaries. On Monday, it's how to use hunting pressure. And then we get into a whole bunch more of them. And they push that out to every one of their app users.
Yep.
Gets that pushed out to them. You pulled one up.
I pulled it up, and
I saw. You did it the other night. I'm like, well, you don't have to watch it right away.
No, it's in your inbox. It stays right there. So if you have the app on your phone, they'll send you a message. It'll show up in your inbox within the app. Then you can click on it and you go watch the video of Randy on YouTube talking about all of these different scouting features. And
well, I need to figure out how to use that
appy thing.
you know how to find yourself on the map, but you don't know how to navigate the app.
The inbox thingy I'm not good at. So, David, where you want to talk about?
We're in the top 5, right?
Yeah, your lifetime of elk hunting. How many years have you been elk hunting? 20?
I guess, in Oregon, you can hunt when you're 12, and I'm 37. But I started going with my dad. He used to guide in Oregon for a long time, and I started going with him over there every year to guide or to just kind of be along with him when I was 6 years old on. And so I've been going with him since I could ride around in a backpack when I was 2 or 3. So I guess my whole life.
Okay. So that said, the question that we've been asking all of our guests is, when we say elk hunting mistake, what's the first thing that comes to your head of your mistakes you've made?
When I'm talking about this is purely speaking about myself more than anything. I think the number one lesson that I've learned is, and even just from watching other people, is learning how to scout country instead of scout elk. A lot of guys will go out in the spring and summer and they'll be like, I saw this bull, or there's 100 elk over here or whatever. And and if they're resident herds, they may or may not stay where they are. But most of the time, at least in the country I hunt, it's totally different when September comes. So what I like to look at the country and the habitat and the past rut sign as opposed to actually what's living there at the moment. Even though it's exciting to see stuff there, right? I see people doing that all the time.
Why is that not a good idea?
Well, because everything, the deck switches around so much by time September rolls around. And if elk, in my opinion, if their habitat isn't somehow changed by humans or pressure or whatever, they tend to rut in the same general areas every year. So if you can find a spot that has a lot of rut sign from the year prior, chances are there's a pretty good chance there's going to be a rutting bull again there that year. So I actually use spring bear season a lot to look for. I don't even look for bears. If I see one, I might go after it. But Randy knows I'm kind of like, really, we might have to pack it out. And so I'm looking for rubs. I'm looking for wallows. I'm looking for whatever trails. And
So what happens if you find a big bull, say middle of June, first part of July? Are you going to focus on finding him again in season?
I guess it would depend where he is. I have some spots where they literally don't move year round. Right. Like Roosevelt's are like that, right? Roosevelt's don't really, unless the area is logged or changed somehow significantly, or it just, it gets so much pressure the older bulls decide to totally leave. for the most part, you can bet on that bull or he gets killed, being there the year after. Or if it's an area where there's good, the ranges throughout the seasons, the summer and the winter range and stuff, there's good places for them to live and sustain themselves year round. They may stay in the same general area. So I don't know. I just take my best guess. Like this looks like, they're here right now just because they summer here, but they're probably going to be rutting over. Every area is different, right? Yeah. Eastern Montana is really different than the mountains and over by, in northwest Montana. They're not even the same. Right. And then if you go hunt Roosevelt, it's a totally different animal. So I guess it depends, but most of my areas in Montana specifically tend to lean towards, they're not exactly where they are. I mean, they may not be far, but they're not exactly there. Sure. And sometimes the bulls totally shift up. Like you may see a big bull in an area and there's elk that rut there, but it may not be that one, so you just never can tell. But since I'm not much of a trophy hunter, it doesn't really matter to me. As long as I know there's rut sign there, I'll tend to go check it out. If it seems like a good spot to kill elk. That's the other thing is sometimes there's good spots that have elk in them, but they're not good spots to kill elk. I have a spot like that in Montana where there's bulls every single day of the week, but killing one there because of the topography, it's a lot of blowdown, and it's almost like a golf ball. Like there's a lot of dimples in it. I don't know what for. I'm not a geologist, but
sounds like a meteor crash site.
Maybe it's UFOs. It's by Roswell, actually. No, it's good. But the winds are super swirly, so it's a great spot to go hear a big bull every day. And I've come close many times, but the mature ones there, you can't get the wind right. It's virtually impossible. So. And then you'll have a spot that there's less elk, but every time you go there, you can get an opportunity, you know? So I guess that would be number one. Yeah. And then, go ahead.
Before we get on to number two, of your elk hunting experience, has a lot of it been Roosevelt's?
No, I've hunted both my whole life, because on the east side of I grew up in Oregon, Western Oregon, and within 2 hours of me is mostly all Roosevelt's, but you just go over the hill, over the Cascades, and I'm in Rocky Mountain country. So we would usually start. Roosevelt season tends to be better in the first 2 weeks of the season for some reason or the other. I don't know why. Never really figured it out. They tend to rut a little bit earlier. From what we've seen where we are. So we would always start on the coast and then wait till later, like around the 15, 16, 17, 20-ish range of September to go over east. So it's nice. It's a nice perk to being in Oregon. You can do both with an over-the-counter tag.
And I'll be able to verify that in about 6 weeks.
Yeah, really? Corey's coming out to Oregon to hunt Roosevelt's this year, and if they shut up like they usually do, we may just drive over the Cascades and kill a few Rocky Mountains.
Shut up! You said they're very aggressive. We'd have no problems calling them in.
They can be. I'm going to show you where they are. You just need to work your magic.
Well, that's So no, I'm excited. I've never hunted Roosevelt's before, and David and I have, through Sitka and our relationship there, developed a really good friendship over the last 11 years, and it's finally worked out. David's living over there full time and invited us to come over. So Donnie and I will be heading over and hunting Roosevelt's for the first time. And I told him I don't want to hunt in the reprod, that thick yellow jacket infested reprod jungle. I want to be in the old growth where you see, it's just dark, the black canopy in there and the green ferns and the orange antlers of that Roosevelt bull coming in. That's my dream.
I can provide everything you just described, except I would add about 20 species of plants on top of all that.
No, I want exactly that. I just want the
salmon berries, blackberries,
8 foot tall salmon berries,
wasp nest, blackberries. Yeah, we'll have fun.
It'll be a fun video to watch for sure.
Oh yeah. No, we'll find some elk to fool around with.
It is on my list someday. It just never fits my calendar though. I'm always doing something in
August. This year it opens August 25th, so it's before Montana starts. But you're antelope hunting at that time.
I'm always doing something else.
Mule deer or something.
I'll just be getting back from Alaska. So.
Oh, right.
And I want to save my marriage before I head to New Mexico.
Well, Randy, I don't feel bad for you on Alaska hunt.
I can't.
I have a hard time feeling sympathy.
I know. I can't.
Why Corey and I are getting stung by yellow jackets.
I know. People
probably be up there living on a boat, eating crab every night.
Catching salmon.
I try to get some sympathy around here, but I don't know what a guy's going to have to do to get any sympathy in this joint. Maybe I'm going to have to come up here
and a rough crowd around
put my
here.
leg in a big splint or something.
You don't have thick skin around this industry. You won't last long.
That's for sure. So item number 2, David, if the listeners are Looking at elk hunting through the eyes of David Brinker, what are the things David would say, hey, don't do what I did?
I have a clearly defined goal that makes you happy. And because I see there's so much media now, with the whole social media phase and stuff, and that I think people sometimes, including myself, set unrealistic goals because they think that 380 bulls live around every corner because they saw one in, a magazine or on their Instagram.
Or they're from Bozeman and they truly do live around every corner.
Or you're lucky enough to live somewhere where they actually do exist, but still extremely rare.
We got to talk about that. Corey makes that joke every time. So for the audience,
anytime we throw out scores of elk, Bozeman has to be brought up.
Because Corey says every person he's ever run into from Bozeman, Montana, sees multiple 400-inch bull elk a year.
They're chasing a 400-inch bull every time they go out.
So that's why if you hear Corey interjecting that, that's where it's coming from.
Not that there really are.
I've lived here for almost 28 years, and I've yet to see a 400-inch, even close to a 400-inch bull elk living around Bozeman, Montana. I'm not saying there isn't one running around here, but if there are guys seeing them on a regular basis, they should be doing these podcasts and writing elk hunting articles.
Yeah, I think, like for me, I like opportunity. I like seeing elk. I like hearing elk. I like being around elk. I get bored very quickly and kind of frustrated. And that's just the way I am. I would rather hunt around 105 points than have the chance of seeing one big bull in a week.
Yeah.
So, but that's me. So my goal is I want to go out and be around elk and have opportunities and shoot one that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Whereas the next guy's goal might be to shoot a 380, and that's totally fine.
Yep.
And it's totally achievable if you put your mind to it. People do it every year. But for me, that's so. I especially people that travel from out of state come to places like this where they see these, especially the last few years with these ginormous bulls coming from the east side and all this stuff. They come out here with these I don't think I'll shoot anything under 350. I'm like, well, you got how many days? Oh, yeah, 4.5 days on public land, and you've never been there, and you're going to shoot. Okay. And it could happen. It does happen all the time, actually. But maybe set a realistic bar for yourself so you can enjoy it, because people get too stressed out. They put too much pressure on themselves, and then they go home unsatisfied,
That is really a good comment, David. I get so many people who are, like some guy stopped me the other day, and he has the tag you and I had in New Mexico. And
Did you tell him to turn it back in?
And he's like, do you think that, I'd really like to shoot something over 350. I said, I hope you do. But I got this sense that he was really stressing because his brother was standing there, and he's like, this is my one time where I'm going to get a chance to shoot just a whopper. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, I hate to break it to you, but it may happen.
We hunted that unit the best season. We hunted it hard.
Yeah.
And we saw one bull that might have been pushing 350.
Yeah.
And there was no way to get to him because he went out on private land. And
Hey, look, there's guys that shoot 350 plus bulls with their bows every year, and they are very good hunters.
Yep.
I'm just saying, have a goal that makes you happy, because elk hunting should be about having fun and being happy.
That's I think the last part of what you said there, David, is that makes you happy.
Yeah.
I did it when I first started hunting. I drew a Unit 10 early rifle tag in Arizona. You talk about pressure. There was only 25 tags, and I've got one of them, and everyone's like, well, if you don't shoot a 390 bull, you've,
wasted the tag.
I felt so much pressure. I was like, man, this is almost not even fun.
I don't even put in for those types of tags anymore because I don't like it just becomes, it's too much pressure and you don't enjoy it. So I put in for kind of off the grid tags where no one will want any part of what I'm doing.
I think that brings up a story of mine. I hunted Arizona. I drew Unit 1 in Arizona, and it was my first out-of-state hunt. I'd grown up in Idaho over the counter, so shooting anything with antlers, was a feat. And going down there, in my mind, I said I wanted a 350 bull. That was my goal for that hunt.
Which is a realistic goal for that hunt.
It is, they're there. And there were 3 of us with tags. We filled 2 of the tags the first 2 days. I had 9 days to hunt for me for a 350-inch bull. And that was my goal. I wanted it, and I had an idea. I spent a lot of time field judging elk and getting to that point. And the third night, we called in a bull from clear across the meadow, comes in on a string to the calls. I'm looking at him the whole time, and his tops are just huge. His fourths and fifths and his beams, everything's just giant. And I said, that's a 350 plus. And he came in, I ranged him, I shot him, he ran off, he died, and I walked up on him, and he had 7-inch eye guards and 7-inch thirds. And he scored 305 or something. And I was crushed. The whole drive home, I thought, this was my chance to shoot a big bull. I ruined it. I wasted it. I was disappointed, and it kicked me like a mule at
That's
some
not
point.
A good feeling
it's
either.
not. And I realized then, score is, you can't chase score and ever be happy. Yeah. And I fortunately drew a tag in Arizona 3 years later. Completely different mindset. I said, I don't care what it scores. If I see a bull, and going back to that first hunt, it was a beautiful bull. There should have been no reason in the world to be disappointed with that.
Yeah.
And so the second time I went down there, had no care about score, didn't even concern. I don't care if it scores 280 or 380. I just want to go and shoot a bull that gets me excited, I think is a big bull, shoot him, and I don't even care what he scores.
Yeah.
And that hunt was completely different on every level. Every day there was no pressure. It was enjoyable. And, it turned out great.
Yeah.
And so I don't try to, if I say scores, it's just more for
the reference.
Just a reference so people understand, maybe, I can tell you the scores of the elk I've shot, but I don't hunt for score. Shot distances, anything comparative or quantitative just turns it into a match, a competition between other hunters. And when you're hunting for that reason, you'll never find true satisfaction and joy in hunting.
No, because you can always get topped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like money, right? There's always somebody with more of it.
Yeah. I hope people really listen to that comment, because it is about going out and enjoying the experience and not having that. We've all had it, that walk-up feeling of,
Yeah.
And it's because you put some pressure or expectations on yourself that as 10 years from that time, you will look back and say, what was I thinking? And so...
And again, that doesn't discredit or change anything about those who have a goal to shoot a 350-inch bull every year, and they pass up multiple bulls waiting for that one. They go through that. That's their goal. For me, though, I found that the true satisfaction of the hunt comes from the hunt itself and not necessarily the end result.
Yeah, and there's happy people that do that. I know really good hunters that are totally satisfied. It just depends on who you are and what you're, again, just have a clearly defined, realistic goal that will make you happy, because we all work hard all year. We wait and it's like 2 weeks of 12 months. So it's sacred, what a worse way to spend your 2 weeks out of 12 months miserable and bitter and resentful and disappointed. And I'm not willing to do that. I don't know how many more years on the earth I have, hopefully a lot more, but I'd like to be happy in the September.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
And happy outside of September.
Yeah, exactly.
For the 11 and a half months that follow.
That's a good goal.
Yeah, if you come home all mad and ornery because you didn't get what you wanted, your hunting days might get shortened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I have young kids. Honestly, the best high I can think of right now is last year my son was with me on an elk and an antelope.
Uh-huh.
I didn't care. The antelope was a doe. Yeah. But I shot it at 15 yards with him right by me, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yep.
So my dad's been elk hunting his whole life. His favorite elk that he's ever killed was a spike bull. It was his last time he was in the woods with his dad.
Yeah.
He killed a spike with his recurve.
Yeah.
So I think the proof's in the pudding. If you ask people what their favorite animal is, most of the time you're probably going to get a response that's not their biggest.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's their best memory.
Yep.
Because those horns will someday end up in someone's attic collecting dust.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it works.
Yep. That is true. Oh, wow. I really like that one, David. That's not like anything real technical. Whatever. It's just mindset.
Yep.
And so.
Yeah.
All right. I've got 5 spots written down. Before we turned the mic on, when we said we wanted your top 5, what was your response?
I'll get there.
Okay.
I'm saving that. That's
okay. So what would be a number 3?
Number 3 for me, and this is totally personal. There's going to be people who are like, I don't agree with them. That's fine.
Hold on. We have to say things that are agreeable on the Elk Talk Podcast.
I heard from Jordan Peterson's podcast that being agreeable is not a good way to be.
Really?
Who's Jordan Peterson?
You've never listened to Jordan Peterson? Come on now.
Who's Jordan Peterson?
He has.
I don't agree with what he said.
Rogan a couple.
I don't agree with that.
He's actually. He's an incredibly intelligent person.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's probably why I've never listened to him.
He doesn't know. He's not a hunter. I don't think. Where was I? Oh. So it's cliche to say it this way, but I can't think of a better way to articulate it off the cuff. Is the whole hunting smarter, not harder. But what I'm talking about is the whole idea that if you go further, the hunting gets better. I grew in Oregon, where I grew up. You're hunting a lot of, you're hunting private timber company a lot around where I grew up. There are some public lands, but a lot of the good habitat still lived at that time on the timber company, which they opened to the public.
Public access.
Yep. And there's roads everywhere because they log it. It's tree farms. And so you have to learn that there is no 6 miles in. Like, there's rarely a spot you can get more than 3/4 of a mile, even a half mile from a road.
Wow.
So you have to learn how to find pockets of elk around people and roads. So I learned really early from my father, who learned from his father, on how to do that. And it's been really fun applying that mindset in the Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have nothing, I love going way back. It's fun. But I've found my best spots within a mile of the road because everybody walks right by them.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
It's cool to hear.
And some of the bigger bulls I've hunted, actually, especially in Montana, have been within a mile or two of the road.
In archery or rifle season?
Does that apply to Roosevelt?
I can't find. You'll have to tell me how to find elk in rifle season, Randy.
Okay.
I'll have to take your course.
So does that apply to Roosevelt's?
Oh, yeah, it's 100% true for Roosevelt. Well, I shouldn't say it's 100% true for. There's just Roosevelt's. There's not a ton of national forest where I come from, and even the national forest used to be logged, so there's roads everywhere. So there's still roads everywhere. Most of the roads you got to walk, but yeah, they're very pockety, and I've just found that most people like to, they have a mindset. It's like, man, I got to get away from people, which is, there's a lot of truth to that, but there's also a lot of truth to, if that's where everybody goes, the elk are going to get pushed out of there, and they're either going to go further or closer. And I think it's both. But sometimes the first 3 miles of the trail might be just as good as miles 6 through 9.
Yeah. So you're saying we aren't going to have any tough pack outs in Oregon this year?
It won't be over a mile, but it's going to be a bad mile.
Darn it.
It's not fun.
And the reason I asked if you were talking about archery season or rifle season is that in rifle season, elk are more in a sanctuary mode and not in a breeding mode. Mm-hmm. And I get a lot of people who are doing their e-scouting, and since we've launched a series with OnX, I'm getting 3 or 4 emails a day with a map saying, is this where or is this right? And the very first question I ask them is, what is the season you're hunting? Because if you're hunting archery season and they're looking for cows and cows are looking for food, this whole sanctuary thing doesn't apply.
No.
Yeah, all things being equal, they'd rather be undisturbed.
Right. But
they're going to go where the cows are, and the cows are going where the best food is. Yep. It's just that simple. Yep. So I get that maybe you want to go do a big backcountry hunt for that backcountry experience.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But don't think that in an early season when they're on food, in a pre-rut or a peak rut when it's about breeding, that you got to go look for sanctuaries. Yeah. That's a rifle kind of later part of the year post-rut, late season tactic is sanctuary.
And again, all these points can be argued, right? Yeah. They're fairly generalized.
No, I don't argue them. People argue with me. I just tell them, you know what, call my wife.
I know people that are really successful going, having that mindset, that sanctuary mindset in archery season. Like, Tyler's one of them. But I tend to really agree with you, Randy, and maybe those spots that I'm speaking of, they're so close, oftentimes cows are a little further down or whatever you want to call it, depending on where you are. And so, I've found that to be pretty true. And actually, I took a friend out a few years ago. I took Adam Foss, actually. I took him out a few years ago to one of my spots that was ridiculously obvious and very close to people. And he goes, we're hunting there? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, what type of people hunt here? And I go, people that are either really smart or really dumb.
We'll find out.
I don't know which one I am.
We'll find out in an hour.
I'm probably a dumb one. But it's one of my most consistent spots that I have. So, yeah, it's not an always rule, but, man, there's some great spots that you don't physically need to kill yourself for. And you can just you can have more energy when you get there, and you never know. It's kind of like the urban whitetail stuff.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes those biggest bucks live pretty close in the subdivision.
Yep.
And stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think just that mentality that if I get way back in the backcountry and I'm away from everything, the elk densities are going to be higher. They're going to be unpressured and bugle more, and it's not necessarily the case.
Not always.
The elk are going to be where the elk want to be.
Right.
And like you said, during that time of year, during the rut, the cows are focused on food. The bulls are focused on the cows, so you've just got to find the feed sources that are most readily available, and sometimes the backcountry isn't the place.
Isn't it?
But that might be where they go to winter, or maybe that's where they summer.
Sanctuaries,
whatever
later,
it is.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, it's hunt smarter. I'll work on that.
I'm giving myself advice right now. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm the first one to run in 4 miles and like run by 2 herds of elk to go see if I can find a different one. I don't know what's different or better about the elk that are further, but maybe they're more yellow, or I don't know.
It's the allure of what's over the next ridge.
Yeah.
Well, then if you do kill one, you're going to have like this brutal pack out that makes for such a great story.
Oh, yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah, you tell all your buddies, yeah, it was 12 miles, man. Yeah, uphill both ways.
And it did start snowing after the rain.
Yeah, I did it in the dark. Tore my ACL on the first trip.
Yeah.
Nothing to that, though. But
All right, I got number 4.
Number four.
Number 4 for me is finding a partner that you have that you hunt well with. I'll put it that way, and I'll expand on that a little bit.
Find a hunting partner.
Find a hunting
you
partner.
Hunt well
If you like hunting with a partner, I actually prefer a lot of time to hunt by myself. But if you're gonna, because I use a mixture of calling and ambushing. But if I'm gonna be calling, obviously having a partner is more effective. Yeah. But man, I've hunted with a lot of people I never want to hunt with again. And it's not because I don't like them out of the field.
Yeah.
It's because when you get in there, if you can't agree, like, because when you're hunting, the best times for me, I'm like making decisions rapidly, and I don't have time to think about it or debate it.
Right.
I don't.
Yep.
I just go, and that's why oftentimes I hunt by myself, because I'm going to fail on my own. I'm going to succeed on my own. But I have a few people that I can go with where we can almost just look at each other and agree. And we trust each other's senses. Like if I say, I think we should do that, and they're like, no, I think we should do that. I'm like, you know what? You're right. Whereas sometimes you'd be like, no, I don't agree. See, I think they're going to do this. And then pretty soon you spend 2.5 minutes talking about it, and you've already lost the 30 seconds that would have got you in front of them, because you don't get much when you're trying to ambush them with the wind, and all the other million things you got to think about.
And then when you go with their idea and it doesn't work out,
and then
you're mad
you're
at them all day.
resentful, and then you don't want to hunt with them the next day.
I'd have killed them if I'd have been alone.
But man, I have 2 or 3 guys that I can go with. That it's just like I'm sure you and Donnie and Dirk. I mean, you guys have a system that you use. You all know it, and it's almost like a special forces team that's like really, really, really dialed, as opposed to a dysfunctional team that can't agree on anything.
I like that. Special forces team.
Well, I'm not. You guys.
Man.
I'm not comparing you guys.
No, you did. You said Dirk, Donnie, and you are like a special forces team. We had
Elk Team 6.
Ooh.
There you go.
Man.
But, yeah, so.
I'm going to write down that T-shirt idea.
And it doesn't mean about always agreeing. It means being able to challenge the person and have enough respect to know when you're wrong, too.
Yep.
So that, and then, can I go to my final one?
Number 1.
Well, before you do, okay, go ahead. I don't want to disrupt your thought.
I'm on a thought train.
Okay,
He
do
is.
it. All right.
This one's semi a joke, but semi not.
Okay.
There's some partial truth to this. Don't pick up a recurve and go elk hunting unless you really, really, really are fully accepting the challenge of really high potential of not killing one.
I say not the challenge of not killing one, the reality of...
Right. And let me preface this by saying, I mean, any traditional, I think I actually enjoy hunting with traditional more than a compound personally. I think it's more rewarding when you do get one. I've done it my whole life. I love it, and I love the community. I'm specifically speaking to, because people coming from a compound to recurve, your expectations of your whole reality is not the same. Your confidence, everything from your confidence level to, the distances, everything is different. Yep. And you have to fully accept those things and just know that, your chances of wounding are going to go up. Your chances of missing are going to go up. Your chances of tag soup significantly are going to go up. All that's, I don't care how good you get with it either. So I see a lot of guys switching, which makes me happy. But at the same time, I want people to have a good time. I don't want to see them get really frustrated and then give it up. Mm-hmm. So just have really, really, again, expectations, like realistic expectations, to know that I'm going out with this bow because I enjoy the art of this. I enjoy the nostalgia of it. It's like a spiritual experience. This is not necessarily, it's not as an effective a killing weapon as a compound. It's just a fact. Yeah. It's not, some guys could, 1% of the trad crowd could probably tell me I'm wrong right now, and they're really good.
Back it up.
And they're really good hunters, trust me, there's some really good ones. But for the most part, and myself included, it's going to be a lot harder, And
again, it goes back to that competition. We aren't comparing you against the best trad hunter out there and saying it's not effective. We're saying you with a compound in your hand are going to be a more effective hunter than you with a traditional bow in your hand.
Yeah, and I think that's okay.
Totally.
What I'm saying is just accept that fact and go out and enjoy it. Significantly shorten up your range.
Yep.
Significantly lower your trophy expectations. Because if you go out thinking you're going to kill a 350 bull in 4.5 days on public land in Montana with a recurve, you could.
Yeah, it happens.
But it's probably not going to happen. So I love it and enjoy it, and I hope more and more people do it. But it's just having that. It's a totally different mindset. And I think people will go out and they'll try it for like 2 days and get frustrated. They'll miss a bull and they'll put it down. That's disappointing because that's kind of the fun of it, is that it's more of a challenge.
So you're saying missing a bull is the fun of it?
No, it's not fun. I'm saying the challenge is fun.
So are you hunting with traditional or compound?
I'm going to do both.
For Oregon Roosevelt elk, first week of hunting season, both? You'll have both?
I don't need a bow that week. You guys are going to kill all the elk anyway.
Whatever.
I was going to watch you guys work your magic and just take pictures and stuff. I haven't decided yet on that one, to be honest with you.
Cool.
We'll just have to see how I'm feeling. I'm going to kind of, I'll decide. I'm practicing almost every day with both right now. And so I'll see kind of where that rolls. But I think I'll for sure do Oregon blacktail with the recurve this year.
So that brings up a couple questions. Two different things.
Yeah.
Difference between Roosevelt and Rocky. Okay. And then difference between traditional and compound. Obviously we know on the surface the differences, the challenge differences, but you said you're shooting both each day. I couldn't imagine the differences in form, the differences in release and execution. Mm-hmm. I have a hard enough time just with the compound keeping all of those things straight. If I throw in another weapon that I'm shooting differently, how do you keep those straight?
I'll be honest with you, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's much easier just to shoot one.
Yeah.
But I don't like just shooting one because I miss my recurve, and then when I shoot my recurve for 2 weeks, I'm like, oh shoot, I need to keep up on the compound skills because I'm going to also hunt with that this year. It's almost like we got sound check going on in the background here and some feedback.
Sorry, folks.
As a musician, I'm sympathetic to this.
Okay, what are we going to do with those people? They're taking up your airtime, David.
I was just going to say something amazingly brilliant.
Really?
Oh man, David lost his piece. You were on.
Where was I?
So we're gonna have to put our mics as close to our mouth as possible.
Oh yeah, I remember you asked me about that. I have to consciously flip a switch when I go down to the range with a different bow from night to night. I'll take both of them down there. I'll shoot a few with the compound. I'll pull out the recurve. I have to consciously flip the switch because it's like, now I got to cant. Now I got to go back to instinctual. Now the grip's different. Yeah. Everything's different. But it also keeps you on your toes and keeps you thinking about making sure that you reset. But I'll be honest with you, it's kind of diluted both. I'm not shooting either really, really good right now. I'm shooting both good.
Yeah.
So
it goes back to that analogy. If you do too many things, you do a lot of things well.
Right.
If you do focus on one thing, you do one thing great.
Yeah. So when I get home, I'm probably going to just not take both to the range. I'll probably just devote specific days to specific things. And hopefully that'll get me back to where I was. But I'm shooting well. It's just, it's just reality, I think. Yeah. I think if you focus. So that's different. Everything's different. Technique. Everything's different about shooting. And then what was your other one?
Roosevelt to Rockies. Are there differences there in how you hunt them and in their behavior?
Yeah, I think, and again, I'm generalizing, but generally speaking, Rocky Mountain elk, where I hunt, are more of a, I don't want to say migratory, but they move a lot more.
Nomad.
Yeah, they're nomadic. Yeah. And you do get that with some Roosevelts, but for the most part, they call them homestead elk. If a bull isn't disturbed, it'll stay in the same general area its whole life, and that means its habitat's not disturbed, it's not killed. I already mentioned all that.
So when you say same general area, you talking 1 square mile?
Yeah,
really?
A couple square miles.
Wow.
Yeah, a couple square miles, a few square
miles.
Whereas
Rockies will travel 8 or 10 miles a day to go from bedding to feed or water.
But you got to realize a few square miles in some of that country is a lot.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
So for me, that's probably the biggest difference. Now there is this ongoing debate on which one talks more, and I can see where people I can see both sides of the coins there, because sometimes it does seem like they're a little Roosevelts are a little bit more sensitive to changes in conditions and pressures, and they do tend to shut up a little bit easier than Rocky Mountains.
So become more call shy.
I don't know if it's call shy. I don't know. Okay, I'll speak to this. I know for a fact where I hunt, changes in weather conditions shut them down differently than Rocky Mountains. I don't know. I'd say just at a higher degree. Call shy, I don't know. There's so many other variables to consider when you saying an elk is call shy. Maybe you're not a good caller. Maybe maybe they're not. There's not a cow in heat in that area.
So I guess more which is more responsive to calling, if you eliminate the factors.
Before I answer that. The other variable why sometimes I think people think they don't talk as much is because you can't hear them as well.
Oh, yeah, because of how thick the country is.
Yeah, I was telling Corey this the other day. I warned him about it. When we're there, you'll get an answer that you think is a mile away and set up, because if you can hear them in some of that country, they're not very far away. I've made this mistake 1,000 times.
Really?
Yeah, you'll walk 50 yards and he was standing there. It's one little dip. The vegetation just absorbs so much sound there, and it's usually foggy and everything too. So they may or may, I don't know. I've never seen the data to prove that they actually talk less. I could see where people think that for sure, but I don't know if it's because you can't hear them as well or they're just more sensitive to conditions. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. But my experience is, yes, you do hear them less.
What about their responsiveness to calls?
When they're there and you can hear them and they're rutting, they got a hot cow, they're very responsive. Yeah. They're very responsive. But they're also, because you can't hear them as well, they also can't hear you as well. And so you got to be in the right spot at the right time.
Okay.
You can't just, and sometimes you can bugle off a landing down in a huge base, but it doesn't work the same there. Yeah. I don't know. Like, they might be able to hear.
Maybe they can hear it and don't answer.
Or maybe they do answer and you can't hear them.
Yeah.
We've had that happen a lot of times where one of us will, did you hear that answer? I'll be like, no. And the bull answered us 300 yards down the hill. But so you'll see if we get good conditions on that hunt, they're very responsive. Look at the born and raised guys. Yeah. They do so well. And I think if you have a really good system and you're in a good area with cows, and it's just like every other elk or good elk hunt. But because where I hunt Rocky Mountains in Oregon, it's usually juniper and sagebrush and fairly open country. You're going to hear more elk. And
it changes the dynamics of their responsiveness.
Yes.
So there's so many variables.
It's not an easy question. It's pretty complicated. Yeah. So
that's why I asked you.
I would actually love to know what the data is on, if anybody has ever actually done a study on that. But most people think they talk less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you kill one of those in a rifle hunt?
Well, it's hard in Oregon because the Western rifle season usually only lasts about 5 days, and there's about 1 billion people.
Oof.
Most of the time they kill a lot of spikes and small bulls. There are a few guys that get after it and they get in the brush and they shoot good bulls, but it's pretty few and far between. It's really, really, really difficult.
I can't even imagine.
But it's cool because there's a lot of old bulls in the rut. They don't get killed.
Right.
If they can get past their spike and their first few years, they're usually home free.
Yeah.
Depending on where it is. Now, I'm generalizing, but on the coast, it's definitely like that. I think in the Cascades and stuff, where there's more open country, more clear cuts and stuff like that, they probably do pretty well. But I've never really spent much time up there. So, Yeah.
Huh.
Very cool.
What's your guys' top tip? Tell me. I need something.
We went through them.
Oh.
You got to go listen to podcasts number 2 and 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, mine was just, be an accountant, drive a desk for a living, and get lucky.
That's the number one tip or number one mistake?
What's Corey Jacobsen's number one karaoke tip?
Karaoke tip?
Yeah, the audience may not know this about Corey, but he is actually a professional karaoke.
No way.
Where were we with it?
Missoula. We were at...
BHA.
Was it BHA?
I think it was BHA. It was like one of the first years they did it.
Okay.
And he's like, we should do karaoke. I'm like, Corey Jacobsen?
Well, I just wanted to go and listen to you because you're the musician.
He hopped right up there, grabbed the mic. He pulled a fog machine out of his back pocket.
No way.
He's making it up.
Really? You got your mirror balls going and stuff?
The strobe light.
Yeah.
Well, you don't got to worry about me doing any karaoke.
Dirk is actually...
He was really good.
Yeah.
He was really good.
Dirk's good. And we just had Dirk on the last episode, and we should have had him sing. We should have had Brinker bring his guitar.
He was starting to sing there, and I said, man, we need to get you a guitar.
Yeah.
So
David, you... go ahead.
All right.
You guys finish each other's sentences.
I know. That's bad.
We were told we're like a couple of old women from back east who gossip. And so...
Yeah, I'm still offended over that. I mean,
really?
Can't you tell? I'm just.
Oh, I was going to say, I didn't get offended
mad.
by that. I thought it was a compliment.
I don't think you get offended anymore, Randy. I've been around you and you've gotten some pretty nasty Instagram messages. And I'm like, how do you deal with that? And you're like, as you get older, you just don't care.
Yeah. My comment is that person obviously has mistaken me for someone who gives a damn.
I admire that.
I thought you were going to say that person's obviously wrong, so their opinion doesn't matter anyway.
They are wrong. So you just, it's kind of like arguing with your wife. You are wrong, she's right, and so don't worry about it.
Yep.
And just like these, people want to light me up. Okay, you're right. Yeah. Okay, you're right. But whereas my question I was going to ask is, David, I admire how you found another passion in your life, or have always had music as a passion in your life. And I think we all end up having certain things that we do or want to do. We got to take the big dive sooner or later. Like Corey, you quit your engineering career. Were there things that you learned, skills or just life experiences, life skills in hunting that helped you succeed in what seemed like an almost impossible chance? I'm sure a million people said, David, you're wasting your time with that guitar.
Well, I actually think bow hunting is a very creative endeavor. Like you have to be extremely creative and be able to visualize, a number of things to be successful. And music or writing music's no different. You got to be able to, come up with something from nothing, basically. And so and then on the other side, I worked in the industry in marketing for so long now with one of the top brands in my opinion, and I learned so much from the people there around storytelling. Just how to tell a story, and in a song you got to tell it in 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and it's got to rhyme and never been said before, never that melody before. No big task. But I learned a lot from that. So I'd say for sure. I mean, I just like being creative, whether that be songwriting or hunting or I used to play golf a lot. Same type of deal. I like the challenge. I don't know why I always pick the hardest things to do.
Yeah, golf, traditional archery.
The most frustrating things
Probably
in the world
a fly fisherman too, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I just can't. Yeah. No, I do fly fish, but I'm no good at it. So I'm not going to. I don't have 5 tips for that.
Well, the reason I ask is a lot of people ask me, well, how did you decide you were going to do this? Start some platform about public land hunting and like this nebulous, intangible brand from. I mean, I wasn't selling widgets or anything.
Yeah.
And hunting taught me so many life skills throughout my life that have applied to business. You go out hunting, you don't get to control all the variables. This is not like a business textbook where you'd write a business plan and everything goes according to that. And every day you wake up and okay, I set my calendar and my calendar goes just according to plan. just like hunting. You're like, all right, I'm going to the trailhead. I'm going to be first person there. You get there. There's 3 other guys there.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to go this way then. So you go that way, and you're thinking, well, the weatherman said, it's going to be nice today. Mm-hmm. You get back there, it's raining, and it's windy. And so for me, I could list off so many life skills that hunting has taught me.
Yeah.
The fact that I know I go out 19 days or 20 days, 19 days, I'm probably going to fail. And it doesn't faze me.
It's actually pretty amazing how much you fail.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you really look at it, like, man, I fail. I mean, it's over 99% of the time probably.
Yeah. If you look at every minute. Yeah. If you aren't failing, you're filling a tag really in hunting.
Yeah.
And in business, it's the same. Every day you aren't retiring.
And especially when you're entrepreneurial like you guys are. And I have a little brother who's started a couple business, and in the tough times, I used to tell him, it's like, picture like every day when I wake up to go elk hunting in the morning, even though I know it's unlikely, I 100% believe I'm going to be successful.
Yep.
Even if I'm like a month in, I'm sleep deprived, and it's like they've just kicked my butt. I believe that in the next minute, something's going to happen. Yeah. And eventually it will. Yep. And I think that's how music is too, is even though my musical goals are simply to make the music and use them to help the things that I like in the industry for now. But, no one's, he's got to get up every day and just do it and show up. And it's not necessarily any more fruitful than that, other than just, you got to figure out a way to enjoy the process. And that means enjoying failing and like doing stuff not very well for a very long period of time. Yeah. Yeah. And then eventually you're like, holy crap, today was an amazing day in music, or today I killed a bull elk. Right. But if you look back, and then I always told my little brother, like, you may have 2 years of bad times in business or whatever. And then one day you get one phone call, and that makes the whole time amazing experience. The story now turns good. That's how elk hunting is. You fail for a month, but then you kill a bull, and your whole season becomes about that bull, as opposed to all the times you're about ready to cry on the mountain.
Totally. And I always go back to the Babe Ruth analogy. He was up to bat, and it's 9th inning. They're down by 1, bases loaded. He's 2 outs. He's got 2 strikes against him, and he steps up there and cranks out a home run. And they ask him after the game, were you nervous, worried about that last pitch? And he said, honestly, no. The odds were in my favor at that point. And, you look at it that way, you fail. Yeah. Eventually, if you're working hard and you're changing and learning from your mistakes, you're going to hit one. Yeah. And every time you miss, your odds of hitting it go up. And so we say that all the time, elk hunting. We mess up a setup, we mess up a setup. The odds are going in our favor every time that happens. And we just have to stick after it until it actually hits.
I think a lot of people remember that Babe Ruth hit 714 home runs, but nobody knows he struck out over 3,000 times.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Everyone wants to think about that. And so for me, whether it's business, whether it's hunting, I just wake up and I'm sticking with it. Yeah. I'm not going to be deterred. And I think I can, in the business world, if someone is a hunter, I can almost get a feeling like this person has some life experiences, and it may not be hunting. It might be some other endeavor where you fail regularly. You have to learn. You think about when you're out hunting, same in business. I can't just sit there and say, I want to think about this one item for 3 days. I give it about 3 minutes, and I make a decision, and I move on. Yeah. Same with hunting. I'm reading the landscape. I'm reading what I heard, what I saw, the tracks, the weather. I'm taking in so much information so quickly and making decision after decision after decision. In the course of a hunting day, I bet you I've made 500 decisions. Yeah. I don't realize it, but I have. Mm-hmm. Same in the world of business. I'm taking all this information that's changing every hour, something different than I thought, and I have to make a decision, live with it, and move on. Yep. And for me, hunting provides me so many things other than just, okay, I shot a bull or I failed a tag.
That's really, really true.
Well, I remember.
100% agree.
When did we hunt hogs in California the first time? Was it 2008?
You got to mention that failure. We got to talk about my failures.
I'm not even going that way. Was it 2008?
When you got charged?
Yeah, the first time.
Can we tell that story very briefly?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't tell as well as you.
Well, I can tell it only because there was fear in it.
I do remember very clearly when we went, this was in 2008. Corey came down to this is when Sitka was still in California. He came down to California on a hog hunt we'd arranged with some pro staff guys. And my dad came along, who's a pretty lively fellow. And he's always jerking with the train. He's always joking around. And Corey walks into camp and he goes, Corey, somewhere along the lines, I got a tip for you. If you shoot a pig or if you're close to a pig and it starts to charge you, wait till they get right almost to you and then jump out of the way. They're almost like what do you say? Like some snakes that can't, go.
Well, he basically said you have to wait until the last second. And if you jump too early, they're going to adjust and they're going to get you. And he's like, if you wait too late, they're going to get you. He's like, it has to be just timed
and
perfectly.
Corey goes, oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, and I just thought, he was a jokester, and he was telling me that I'm like, I'm not scared of a hog. He's like, well, they got tusks this long, and they'll rip your legs off. And so anyways, the last night there, I shoot a pig. And it hits it a little far back, and so it goes over the ridge. And so the guy I'm hunting with, we go walking up there and tracking it. And we're in this manzanita and just thick stuff, just tearing us up. We're down hands and knees half the time. And we come up, and I'm face to face at about 10 feet with this hog that's, still very much alive. And without even anything, we made eye contact, and he was coming at me, straight at me.
Really?
And I literally, in my mind, I'm thinking, his dad told me to wait till the last second and sidestep. And I look, and there's just nowhere to sidestep. And it was the last second. I jumped into this manzanita bush, and it ran right by me within inches and kept going and got up on the hill, and I shot it again, and end of story. But
and then didn't it happen again the next time we went pig hunting?
Yeah, it happened again last year when we were down.
I'm never taking Corey pig hunting again.
Yeah, I shoot a pig and we go up there and it's still alive and it jumps up and comes right at me. I'm like, wow, what is?
He's got
2
bad
for 2
pig karma.
Yeah. But my original point was we were down there 2008, so it's been 10 years ago. And David has a guitar and he's sitting in his tent during the middle of the day, just strumming chords and it wasn't what I'd call a great guitarist. And he's working on some lyrics and stuff. And
we'll be honest, it was bad.
It wasn't bad, but it was amateur. Yeah. I mean, it was his guitar playing skills it was fun to listen to around a campfire, but you could probably sing a song with a G and a C and an F chord, and that was about it. Yeah. And songwriting was, it was a passion. He's like, I want to be a songwriter someday. Yeah. But his songs weren't. You have to tell a story, you have to rhyme, you have to do all these things, and at that point they weren't. And to watch the evolution of that, it's been step by step. It wasn't one day he woke up and hit a home run. Nope. It was work. And honestly, he released his album, 3 months ago? April. Yeah. And it's one of the best albums I've listened to because it's so heartfelt. The storytelling is so phenomenal. The artist he had, supporting him from musicians to other backup singers and everything just came together, and it's a home run. Yeah. I mean, really it is. And it's you can't take for granted the work that goes into getting to that point. And that was his dream. He wanted to be a songwriter. He wrote every song on it. He played on it. I mean, that's to chase a dream for 10 years and put in that day-to-day work. Entrepreneurs, business, hunting, life in general. Yeah, you can sum it up right there.
Yeah, no, my wife and I talk about this all the time in terms of, because I get a lot of comments on actually traditional bow hunting or any traditional bow hunting mainly, and then music also, because they're two things a lot of people want to try. Yeah. And they'll go, man, I wish I could play the guitar or whatever, or sing or whatever it may be. And I always tell them, 15 years ago, I couldn't sing or play the guitar. And nobody wanted me to, trust me. Like, I didn't wake up in the morning and people are like, you should keep playing. I mean, yeah, your family does, but no one else. But I wanted to, and I enjoyed it. And if you can kind of get in that little cocoon and you can see through the sort of the uphill battles that make most people stop, and take like every single day, even if it's like 30 seconds or a minute or 10 minutes or an hour or whatever, and whatever craft you're working at or skill you want to develop, and just take a little tiny chunk out of it, pretty soon, Jordan Peterson, who you don't know who this is, but he says aim or set a low bar. And most people think, well, you shouldn't set a low bar. You should set your bar high. And that's not his point. His point is short term, your bar should be low, because you're not going to get over the high bar in 2008.
Achieve
David
one bar
Brinker,
at a time.
songwriter. Yeah, you go over the bar tomorrow, and then the bar the next day, and then the bar. And then pretty soon you look backwards and you're like, holy crap, I can't remember if the bar used to be that low. And now I'm doing this, and that'll probably never end your entire life. I will never be I'll be the best I can be, over the course of time, but I'll never be where I want to be. My guitar teacher told me a long time ago, he told me, you'll never get there. And I go, what do you mean I'll never get there? He's like, because there is no there. There is no such thing as there. In elk hunting or anything, it's like it's this day-to-day battle for constant improvement. And that's all it is. And then pretty soon, the sum of that is pretty darn good. Like, you've been working at being an elk caller your whole life, and right now you're at a place where the sum of the 15,000 hours you've practiced or whatever it is, I bet you it's over 10,000 hours. You are to where you are right now, and the guy that's going to go to Sportsman's tomorrow because of this podcast or wherever and buy an elk call, it simply isn't going to get there tomorrow. But 5 years from now, they may look back and go, man, I am so much better since the first time I heard Corey talking about. So anyways, a bit of a tangent, but I do believe in really that wholeheartedly, because I think 99% of my peers or the people that you see from day to day stop pursuing things they want to because they can't get over the high hurdle when all they got to do is jump over a little one. That's all.
I think, it's so applicable to everything that we've talked about. But hunting, you look at success rates in hunting, and people come out and they fail to fill their tag, they want to quit. They want instant success, and it doesn't happen in anything. Yes, there are cases where it does, but if you want the path to true, consistent success, you get up every day, you put your shoes on, you put your boots on, you hike up the mountain, and you go, and you push.
And then right when you think you've got there, it'll humble you again.
Exactly.
You'll have a year where you're like, man, I thought I was good at this. I am not good at this.
And then for me, another part of it has been, I quit one thing in my life. When I was younger, I quit something, and it still sticks with me today that I will never quit ever again. Never again will I quit. And when I'm out hunting, and the conditions say I should quit, the hunting pressure says I should quit, I might be feeling like crap, whatever it is, I'm just not gonna quit. And
that's a good rule to live by.
I mean, if quitting's not an option, it eliminates so many thoughts in your head. Because what occupies your head is I'm just gonna bail, I'm quitting. If that's not an option, now the only options remaining is to see it through, hunt the day out, give it hell. And it's amazing how many times I've thought about quitting and said, no, I don't quit. And ended up filling a tag that day or learning something that helped me fill a tag the next day or the day after. And
a friend of mine, Tom Foss, told me one time that you should hunt as hard the last day as you did the first day. Every time. And if you do that, you'll be successful. In whatever you determine or you define success as.
And that not quitting, I apply that to the rest of my life also. I mean, I am, if I start something, you're going to have to put me in the dirt before I quit. I just, how it is. And I think hunting reinforces the value of sticking with it and not giving up. Because if we gave up in hunting when it got tough.
You'd never step out of the truck.
Right, you'd sell your gear the second day of season. So... Well,
awesome.
We're holding the audience slightly longer than we'd like to, but again, I'm going to do a quick Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation piece while you drum up the Sitka question of the week.
Okay.
That work? Oh, David's doing a drum roll.
Drum roll.
Yeah.
So, but because we're still sitting in beautiful Big Sky, Montana, it just seems appropriate that I talk about the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Just south of here is a place called Taylor's Fork. Taylor's Fork is the critical migration route for all wildlife that comes from the northwest corner of Yellowstone. And they migrate and spend the winter over in what's called the Madison Valley. They got to go over the Madison Range. And in 2004, a guy who came to Montana bought a bunch of stuff that had been platted for 20-acre parcels. And he was going to go put cabins in there. And the Forest Service denied him a permit to cross the creek to build a bridge across the creek. So he used a helicopter to start flying cabins in there. He's like, I'll show you. And a guy named Alex Diekman, who's no longer with us, one of my dear friends, worked for the Trust for Public Lands. He came to me and said, I think I can talk with this guy, but I need someone with the horsepower who's willing to work with the legislature and the delegation to keep this drainage from being chopped up and made into cabins. So Alex put the deal together quietly. He worked with Ron Marcoux, and Ron was the lands guy at the Elk Foundation at the time. And that now, because of the Elk Foundation saying, yeah, we'll carry the ball, they worked with the Montana delegation in Congress to get the deal done. The Taylor's Fork is still intact, and it is remarkable, unbelievable. Beautiful country. Yeah. If you think about what would happen to those elk herds if the Taylor's Fork was now a bunch of cabins on 20-acre parcels.
Yeah.
It just would be terrible.
Yeah. Change everything. Change the whole system.
So if you travel to southwest Montana or you go to West Yellowstone, Montana, and you come north when you're driving through Yellowstone Park and you see all these elk and bighorn sheep and even some bison and other stuff, moose, know that those animals would not have a place to go in winter, or it'd be a lot harder, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
If not for the work of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So with that, what's our Sitka question of the week?
Sitka gear question for this episode, and I'll give you the question, and then we can maybe talk about it. But what effect do cattle have on elk and elk hunting?
Oh boy, that's going to depend on where you're at.
Why?
Well, I live in the Northern Rockies in Montana, where public land grazing gets a really hard ride from hunters, and we have water in every drainage, and so if someone sees some elk crap or cow crap, they're like, damn, cattle ran them all out of here. But yet if I go to New Mexico or Arizona where water is very, very rare, most of the man-made water that exists is because of these public land grazers for their cattle. So the political dynamics of it is, I get that some people don't like to have cattle where they're hunting. The flip side of it is, I like those water improvements that bring more habitat value to those lands in really arid climates. As far as how do elk respond, I don't know.
Will elk commingle with cattle into what it, can you overgraze and have too many cattle in an area where they will push the elk out, or will they coexist?
The science, all the studies you read say that they'll coexist within a general area, but not much within the
same meadow.
Right.
Yeah.
And can you overgraze it? Yeah, that's been proven many times. But then also there's studies that show that if grazed properly and rotated properly, it actually enhances some of the forage values.
So are elk grazing or browsing?
They're grazing.
So they're competing for the same food sources as cattle?
Sometimes. But there's studies that show in certain landscapes that they select for different grasses and select for different forbs. So I think people, and I'm guilty of it, I like to generalize things, man. My answer's
way easier to do that.
This
stuff's not complicated.
If I'm going to paint, I want a brush about this wide, man. Problem solved.
It's not opinion anymore, it's fact.
Right. I don't know. I mean, you guys probably have different experiences than I do, but I'm really into the science and the ecology of elk, and in the West, you got public land grazing on the BLM and the Forest Service and on state land. So you have to understand that that's part of the use of the land. And I've had elk temporarily be displaced by cattle presence. But it's not like, oh, they're gone forever. They might be back in there in a month, or they'll surely be back in there in the next year or whatever. But I don't know. You might have
David,
a different experience.
You have any?
I'm not real educated on the science of it, but from my experience, it can go both ways. I get more frustrated when I spook a herd of cattle and they spook the elk. That's what I was thinking about. I'm like, man, my answer is not very scientific.
Or a branch breaks and you're set up.
And I get set up and a cow comes walking in. That gets my heart going. No, I think it's all. I mean, all of this stuff is all about balance. You know, big animals have been grazing some of this land for a long, long time, and they were called bison.
Yeah.
But it's not. There's so many variables, and all the different environments are obviously they're different.
Yep.
So I would just say that, you know, there's got to be a good balance, and people should just be mindful of both sides of it. You know, it's a very, very complicated debate.
Yeah.
Very, very complicated, and I have sympathy for both sides of it.
Totally.
What's your answer?
Well, it's kind of hard to ask a question and then provide the answer. That's,
Well, no, you get.
No, my experience-
My wife asks a question all the time, and she's got
and
the
she
answer.
knows the answer.
Yeah.
She just wants to make sure you know it.
Setup.
Gotcha. All right. You know, Idaho, same thing. We've got open range, and there's definitely cattle in elk country. A lot of it. You get into the backcountry, and there's not as much. But I've never seen cattle compete with elk in a way that it displaces elk for food or water sources. They may share those resources. And I think in certain areas, if those resources are limited enough that the cattle are completely wiping it out, they could. But with that open range, those cattle are moving. They're looking for the food. There's enough feed there that they aren't competing in a way that it displaces them. I will say there are huge herds of sheep that will move across the landscape in certain areas, and they will eat.
Yeah.
They will graze down to the dirt, and there will not be an elk in the drainage where those sheep have moved through.
Or a deer.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just my personal observation, but I suspect there's some science to it. That when sheep come through, it looks like lunar landscape that even the rabbits and the field mice don't have anything left to eat.
Yep. And they stink. And Dirk even said,
Sure, that's
I don't
not
think
you guys?
Dirk said, I don't think it's the feed. It's the fact that the elk can smell so good and they smell those sheep and they can't stand it there. But yeah, I haven't noticed as much.
How bad that smells if you were an elk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No,
So,
I'd probably have the same observations. I appreciate that, you know, we got to share the landscape.
Yeah.
And as long as it's done smart and accommodates the needs of wildlife, I think where hunters get upset is if the wildlife is moved down to priority number 45.
Yeah.
That's where you start having the rub.
yeah.
That's a fair debate.
Yeah. So. Well,
Awesome.
We got it, Corey, or do we want to turn the mics towards this dude on the fiddle and the mandolin and the gal singing down there?
You know, it's fitting that we're talking music with David and there's a band playing in the background, but David's playing on the same stage. Same stage tonight?
No, I'm going to have a
better
different
place.
stage over here.
Cool.
Okay.
So David's playing here at the Total Archery Challenge tonight, and excited to listen to him live again.
You going to get up and sing?
I'm not. I can't play the radio, so.
No. But
Well,
David,
thanks,
where
David.
can people find you, and especially where can they find your new album?
Sure. Yeah. It's everywhere that people listen to music. I think my personal favorites, Spotify and Apple Music. It's on iTunes. I have a website, davebrinker.com. If you search for it, just make sure you put Dave Brinker and not David Brinker. For some reason, it doesn't put the two things together. So. But I appreciate you guys having me on. It was really fun. Makes me want to go elk hunting.
No kidding.
You should go out.
Unfortunately, I still got a month.
I know. But are you coming to Arizona with me this year?
I hadn't got the to Coos Deer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, after seeing you guys, all the fun you had after I had to leave with the flu.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, we had to get you out of there. We didn't want to get whatever hooboo itch, pox, and canker
I've
that
never
you
wanted
had.
to die on the Mexican border down there. You
Really?
know? I was not.
You were bad. I've seen people try to hunt when they were sick, but I think you were as ill looking as any person I ever saw.
I knew when it was 85 degrees out, and I had a Core lightweight hoodie, a Traverse shirt, a Traverse cold weather hoodie, and like a Kelvin light jacket on. And I'm like, "Are you guys cold?"
No,
They're like, "It's 80." And I'm like, "Yeah, I need to go home."
Yeah.
So no, I'll be there, Andy. It'll be a good time.
Well, what the audience needs is a pot. You bring your podcast kit, and when you guys wrap up your
Yeah, we will.
your hunt over there,
Yep.
I know the perfect spot for it.
we need a report.
Yep. No,
All
we'll definitely check in after our Roosevelt hunt. My first time hunting Roosevelts, and certainly excited for that. And we'll check in and talk about all the mistakes we made.
It'll be great. Thanks for
Thanks,
watching,
guys.
folks.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.